Good evening. Tonight is the 11th day of July, 2022. It's been a tough week for Republicans here in Oklahoma, but that means that we've got some exciting things to talk about on the Democratic side of the ticket. All that and more with our special guest this evening coming up on tonight's Hamilton Report. It's always a pleasure to spend some time with you on Monday evening, and I am very appreciative of you joining us tonight. I hope that wherever you are, it's cool, that you're comfortable and relaxed. We're going to spend half an hour this evening, and I appreciate you inviting us into your homes for this half hour, because there is so much happening right now in Oklahoma. And if I were a Republican, I would not be very happy with the turn of events. If we look at what happened just last week, the Oklahoma Ethics Commission ruled that the Republican Senatorial Committee must shut down immediately. There are some very good reasons for this. It seems like they were spending lots of money very recklessly. Their accounting was off. They were using lots of dark money, accepting money from corporations, which in Oklahoma is illegal. They're liable to pay back $67,000 to the Ethics Commission. And I believe that we're just beginning to see some of the shenanigans going on with Republican candidates this year. And sadly, on Friday, the chairman of the Oklahoma College Republicans was arrested on multiple charges of child endangerment, lewd and lascivious acts to a minor, and sodomy. This is no joking matter, and I will admit that I did post a tasteless post on social media this weekend, which I have removed because I was so frustrated, and that's the way that I dealt with it at the time. But I'll tell you, when you consider the atmosphere that the Republican Party has created in Oklahoma, is it any wonder that people are afraid to be out and they must act in a covert kind of way? That certainly is no excuse for harming a child, any child, for any reason. And this young man, 22, is in serious, serious trouble. But there's a compounding factor to all of this, and that is that in a sworn deposition, Oklahoma Senator James Lankford said that a 13-year-old child, he believes, is capable of making consent to have sex with an adult. That is disgusting. It's immoral. It's illegal. And I cannot imagine one of his children experiencing that. That deposition was in support of a friend of his who was eventually convicted of violently raping a child here in Oklahoma. But he said it. I didn't. And what kind of message does that send? So what I'm seeing in his statement, in the arrest of this young man on Friday, and the shutting down of the Senatorial Committee, it's more out of Stitt's playbook that rules are made for other people, but Republicans somehow in this state believe that they are above the law. Now, certainly they have taken quite a good lesson out of the last president's playbook as well, because he believed that he was above the law. And as the January 6th Commission is showing us almost every day, that is quickly fading into history. And what will become known as the truth is that he nor any one of us is above the law. That means the current governor of this state. It means the chairman of the Oklahoma College Republicans is not above the law. And it goes on and on and on. So how do we keep people engaged? How can we possibly let people know that there is a brighter option? And how do we engage young people specifically? Because people my age and older, we're not going to be around forever. But young people, we need to be investing in them now. We need to be engaging them. And one of the ways that that's happening is on our college campuses. My guest this evening, and I'm thrilled to have her, is a dynamic young woman, a true leader in the Democratic Party. She is the president of College Democrats of here in Oklahoma. And it's my pleasure to welcome her to the Hamilton Report. Taylor Broadbent, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Scott.
Okay, like you heard me say, what in the world is going on that Republicans think that they're above the law, and how are college students responding to the horrible news coming out of their party?
Well, I just want to start by saying that I was really, really shocked and saddened by the news that came out on Friday. I had known Jonathan. We had talked several times while he was up at the Capitol. He actually had worked at the Capitol in the Senate, which is the last time I saw him, which was during session. It's really quite shocking and horrible news, actually. I was really shocked when I heard what had happened, and I just want to start off by saying that I don't want us to take this as a time to win political points for college Dems. I want us to acknowledge that this is something that was horrible and happened to a child on one of our college campuses. And I think that the reaction of all college students should be, very disgusted that this would happen on any of our campuses. And I hope that not only does Oklahoma Christian take steps to prevent stuff like this from happening in the future, but that all universities in the state step up their education on consent, Title IX, sex education, just to generally prevent incidents like this from happening on any college campus.
Well, I very much respect what you said about not scoring political points here, and that was not the reason that I had you on, but rather to look at the challenges of engaging people. And honestly, if I were a college student and I saw the kinds of idiocy that we've been seeing from the Republican Party, I would either jump to the Democrats or I'd say, to hell with it. I'm just not even going to bother being involved. How do you break through? How do you communicate with young people and explain to them the importance of truly being not just a voting Democrat, but someone who can get involved, working with campaigns, becoming a candidate? And there are so many ways. But how do you break through the clutter and share that with them?
I think it's actually a really, really great question. It's really hard to engage young people because so many things are going on in a young person's life. You've got school, you've got work, which in most cases you have a lot of school and you're being paid minimum wage to not much more at your job. And it's hard to convince college students to, donate your time and get involved because our time is so valuable in college. And it's really hard to bridge that first barrier of getting students to utilize their free time to come out in support of candidates. But I think some things that have been really successful in the past is when candidates have come to our campus, especially at the University of Oklahoma, when candidates come and visit with students, it gets them excited, gets them engaged, and wants them to come out and knock doors. We were very fortunate during the 2020 presidential election to have candidates like Beto O'Rourke and Cory Booker on the University of Oklahoma's campus. And that's honestly where I saw some of the strongest support for those candidates. And it really starts with candidates and the party for coming down to our campuses and making those relationships with our students. And I will say that students are more likely to come out and knock doors for any campaign of people that they know care about their community. And that means coming and speaking with our students at their college Democrats meetings across the state. And the University of Oklahoma is very fortunate to be in the place where we are, where we're a great location for candidates to come. But there's students at Southeastern, Northeastern, Southwestern, RSU, Rogers State University, East Central University, who are in places that it's not always politically beneficial for candidates to go. But those Democrats out there are really the ones that are really fighting the hardest to maintain their beliefs on a campus that's not as welcoming as the University of Oklahoma. And so I really think part of my strategy and what I want to do is connect more with those rural college campuses, because that's how we build up the party as a whole.
You're so right. And I think that you made a wonderful point, Taylor, because it's easy on a campus like OU to I guess live in a bit of a bubble. It's like living in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. We see some progressive things happening, and so we start to feel not only good about it, but we kind of begin to relax into it a little bit. When we have to understand that most of our state is rural, and we do have people who are fighting everywhere. We have candidates running for state house and state senate from very far locations from central Oklahoma City here. And I really do appreciate that. A moment ago, we saw that there is in the runoff election, which is coming up in 6 weeks, that we everyone in the state will have the opportunity to vote for Madison Horn or Jason Bollinger, both Democrats who are in a primary runoff in this next election. And I know that both of them have been very aggressive in visiting colleges and talking with young people. And we encourage that in the party because, as I said earlier, those of us who have been around are not always going to be around. But it's not enough just to turn it over to someone without giving them a hand in helping them shape their own career, their own way within the party. And when you talk to people outside of your own school community, what are some of the things that you hear from students at other campuses in Oklahoma?
I think one of the main things that I hear is that they feel like they're isolated from the communities that are in Oklahoma City, are in Tulsa, are in Norman, are in Stillwater. They feel like they're left out of the conversation a lot of the time, or that people aren't paying attention to what's going on. I know one of the great things that we did this past year is when we hosted a fundraiser at Eufaula with some of the previous governors, we invited Northeastern's college Dems out to the event. And that's one of the few times ever that they've really gotten to participate within the party and be present at events, because college students are not always have the ability to travel into the city to do some of the events that we have going on. And so I think it was important, and it was an important step for them to be involved in event planning like that.
And I'm truly glad that you did, because I had a chance to talk to a number of those students, as well as the folks that you brought with you. And it was incredibly energizing for me to see young people enthused. They weren't just there because they needed something to do on a Friday night. They were there with a purpose. And that was really exciting to me. What are some of the events that you are planning in order to reach out to schools that are not near necessarily a metropolitan area?
So one of the things that we have tried to do is my director of membership tries to reach out to our universities at the beginning of every semester and see what we can attend, where we can lend support, and just generally how they would like us to engage and how to be involved. I know that several candidates went out to the Strawberry Parade and Festival up there in northeastern Oklahoma. And, that was an amazing time to get connected with some of our rural college Democrats. And that's part of the strategy too, is just to be present at events. It's the bare minimum that we can ask for people. But when there's county fairs, when there's things going on like that, we need to be partnering with our county parties, like the Cleveland County Democrats do, and try to be present at events that are central to rural communities.
I want to mention that was a perfect invitation for me to do so. This Saturday in Enid, the county party there is going to be hosting a hot dog cookout at a park, and it's open to absolutely everyone. And I'm hopeful that that's going to truly be an intergenerational event, because they're doing some wonderful work in Enid. And then on Sunday, and I know both of our senatorial candidates will be there on Saturday, and then on Sunday, Cleveland County is doing a candidate forum. And again, both of them will be present. And I'm excited about that. So our county parties are really stepping up. And I think that it would be even more effective if we can find closer ways to partner with college Dems and even high school students with our counties, because in many of our counties we have a handful of people who are just exhausting themselves, and if we could find someone who could just absolutely commit to half an hour volunteering a week, that would make a difference. And I think that most college students, even though most I would say are working their way through school to avoid enormous student debt. Um, Even so, there are ways to become involved that don't take a lot of time, that don't take a lot of time away from studying or just being a college student. But one of the things that I'm interested in are the issues that you're hearing from young people. What are the issues that are most prevalent in their minds right now?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious one of women's reproductive health. Since the overturn of Roe v. Wade, some of the most impacted people are going to be women on college campuses. Um, I mean, that's definitely been the loudest presence that I've heard since even when school was still going on. I saw a lot of organizing going on around women's reproductive health. Um, and I think that that was one of the things that's going to really energize our young people is to rally behind the right to privacy. And I hope that we really capitalize on that and use that as a way to catapult young people into being more politically involved. Because I think a lot of people were taking some of the rights that we've been guaranteed for a long time for granted, when it's really something that we have to fight for every single day, every single election cycle. And I know a lot of people have said that telling people to just go out and vote isn't always the solution anymore. But I think that organizing is part of civic engagement. And I think it's an equal part of going out to vote. I think that that's really been the number one issue. But obviously, college debt, increasing tuition prices, inflation, things of that nature are also really pressing concerns on students' mind. Economic issues are going to play a big part in this year's election, and we need to be ready for that response of why are things costing more? Why aren't we doing things to, help students when they get out of school? Why haven't we taken bold action to alleviate the college debt crisis? And I think that that's going to be a large part. And obviously, the climate crisis is going to be a large part of that conversation as well. Many young people feel that they get depressed about the idea that climate change is upon us and people aren't taking it as seriously as they should. And I think the last issue that I'm going to mention is, gun reform. We are the generation that grew up all the way from K through 12 doing intruder drills. I never lived in a world that was pre-Columbine. I never went to school in a world that was pre-Columbine. And I think that that has had a large impact on our students, that it's something that we've been trained to normalize in our schools. And I think that there are some really great young leaders energizing young people like David Hogg, who have really led the way with March for Our Lives to energize young people. But we just need the older generation who are already out there who will get to make these decisions to listen. And I think that that's one of the hard things in this, is that college students just don't feel like they're being listened to.
And our viewer makes a great point here. College students are being educated, and we need to treat them as such. We're when I was in college, people basically just patted us on the head and said, "Oh, thank you. That's cute." But the reality is that the concerns of young people should be the concerns of all of us. I was having a conversation earlier today with a friend about Lake Mead, and it's devastating to see those pictures. I mean, the fish that are just dead on the bottom of that dried up, what was a beautiful, gorgeous lake. And I didn't know this, but he explained to me that within a couple of hours, you could be sailing on the lake, climbing rocks, or actually skiing, all right there. And of course, with climate change, that has altered everything. And so I'm so glad that Senator Inhofe is retiring, because he has been one of the biggest challenges to addressing climate change. Everyone remembers his stunt with the snowball on the Senate floor. And it's that kind of thinking that I will encourage young people to raise their voices about, because gone are the days when we can take anyone in this party for granted. I'm sorry that it was ever that way, but this is a time when we have to be paying attention to our young people, to people who are part of marginalized communities, because as we have seen, we have a great deal of potential loss with this current Supreme Court. You mentioned right to privacy. Yes, we're looking at the return of sodomy laws around the country. I mean, literally being passed as triggers, so that once the Supreme Court rules, boom, we're right back into it, just as they have with abortion in Oklahoma. And so just because we've enjoyed rights for a very long time, there is no reason to believe that we're going to continue. Um, Clarence Thomas said, well, if it's, or rather, Justice Alito said, it's not guaranteed in the Constitution, then it's not guaranteed. Well, the ramifications are that that could take away your right to vote. That could take away my right to vote if I don't own property. Those are extreme, of course, but imagine what this court has the capability of doing. And that's why young people are it's way beyond our greatest resource. Young people are critical to this party and to our nation's future. And I mean future starting right now. When someone says, what do Democrats believe? How do you answer a college student with that?
I actually have had this question posed to me many times, and I say essentially that Democrats believe that we as humans have certain human rights, and they are not exclusive to the ones that are explicitly written in the Constitution. I think that when they ask me why I'm a Democrat, I always tell them about three things: women's rights to reproductive health. I tell them, as a tribal nation citizen in Oklahoma, I know how much the governor has failed our tribes and our tribal people. And that's one of the main reasons that I'm a Democrat, is growing up as a Cherokee Nation citizen and seeing how our tribes have impacted our communities, and seeing that the Republican Party has taken that for granted. And, people always ask me, why, as someone who grew up in a red area, did you start feeling differently about Republican politics? And it really started in school, and seeing my teachers, not be able to print enough assignments for a whole class, that you'd have to bring your own loose leaf paper to class to answer quizzes, and our teachers being restricted on their ability to even perform their jobs in their classroom, what conversations we're allowed to have in our classrooms. As a person who comes from a family of an educator, as someone who went to public school, I think that if you ask me why I'm a Democrat, it's because I believe in public schools. I believe that I have certain rights to my own body, and I believe that tribes are what power the state of Oklahoma. And I think that there's only one party who believes all those three things.
Oh, that's a perfect answer. When and I hope our viewers, if our viewers missed the interview that I did with Joy Hoffmeister a couple of weeks ago, please go on YouTube and find that, because I'm stunned at the way that Taylor just said that tribes are the engine for our state, because she said basically the same thing. And so to continue to be hit on by the current administration is mind-boggling. Consider all that our tribal nations give to the state of Oklahoma. So I hope that that's a message that is amplified loudly among you and your colleagues, Taylor.
Of
What
course. And go ahead,
what
Scott.
would
Sorry.
no, that's fine. I want you to tell our viewers how they can help you attract more young people, how they can help you with the needs that your group has right now.
So I think that the first thing that they can do, as Democrats who are probably older in the state, is to invite college Democrats in their area, about college students that they know, out to lunch, have dinner with them, have a conversation with them, and hear them out about why they believe what they believe, and why and what their colleges need. You know, Oklahoma is a unique place with many different colleges, ranging from our great community colleges here in the city to our tribal colleges like the College of the Muskogee Nation, um, to rural colleges, to colleges like OU and OSU that really back the research and the economy in the state of Oklahoma. And I just want to encourage all of us to reach out to our community members, especially our students coming off of COVID, being for the first time in person, really for a whole year. I think it's going to be really important that we make sure that those students feel like they are heard, valued, and that they should stay in Oklahoma.
Oh, that is a perfect summary. And I'll tell you what, you have just encouraged me. You challenged us to take a college student to lunch. I will make this public offer. Any college student in the state of Oklahoma who is a part of Democrats, pardon me, our college Dems here, if you will contact me at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, just send an email to scott@okdemocrats.org. I commit to taking you to lunch. It may be burritos from a gas station across the street, but I promise you, I will listen to what you say. And our chair has been just phenomenal in reaching out to young people, supporting young Dems, both as candidates and volunteers, and listening. And that's something we are committed to, because with young people like you, Taylor, I believe we have limitless potential, but it's going to take all of us continuing to support you and your efforts. So thank you so much for being with us tonight on the Hamilton Report. You are a rock star, and whatever we can be doing for you that we're not doing right now, all you got to do is reach out and we will be there for you. I promise.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me.
We'll talk real soon, my friend. Thank you again. Wow. This was one of the more exciting shows that we've done in a while for me, because it's just incredibly exciting to hear a young person talk with excitement about our future. And, one of the things as Democrats we're going to have to get over is holding a grudge. And that's what too many people are doing with Joy Hoffmeister right now. Well, she was a Republican before, and I just don't trust her. But friends, we talk all the time about our need to expand our party, to grow our party. Where are these folks coming from? If we don't welcome Republicans and libertarians and independents into the Democratic Party, the big tent party, then we are charting a course of failure. And so that means that all of us have to open ourselves to the receptivity of people who are seeing the light and want to work for positive change in Oklahoma and in the United States. And as I just told Taylor, under her leadership and people like her, I believe that we do have a bright future, and it's up to all of us to make that happen. Very quickly before we go, I just want to mention something that would be perfect for young people, but also people of any age. On July 20th, which is a week from this Wednesday, there is a very fun event. It's a karaoke evening at VZD here in Oklahoma City. Tickets are only $10, and it's being put on by a volunteer to directly support the work of the Oklahoma Democratic Party. So it's a good evening for folks just to come together and have a good time, have a cocktail if you'd like, sing some songs, support other people. And for only $10, it's a great way to support what we're doing now and how we're moving quickly toward November to make true positive, lasting change for all of us and for generations to come. Friends, we are completely out of time tonight, so I'm going to wish you a good evening and a great week ahead. Thank you once again for sharing some time with us tonight, and I'll look forward to seeing you again next week right here on the Hamilton Report. From all of us at the Oklahoma Democratic Party, I'm Scott J. Hamilton. Good night.